Dr. Phil then, Marno Boshoff, good friend, to come and interview the CEO of King Price Insurance, Gideon Galloway. Can we welcome them?
So I think like Ruan said, we want to just maybe kick off and say that the first thing we usually do at a Lifework event is that we have these interviews. So we are going to sort of do that. Moet ek sit? Ekskuus, Ruan sê ons moet sit.
Ek kan nie stil sit nie. Ek sal probeer.
And what we do during these interviews, we love to tell stories. And I think one of the very important things you hear very often is, I was thinking about the church I attended on Sunday was also the same theme. We started with the book of Luke. And reading those first 3 or 4 verses, it says where Luke is writing this letter to Theophilus, saying to him, listen, I'm gonna try and give you a very accurate report of the stories that has been orally transferred from generation to generation. And the whole book of Luke and the whole book of Acts are all these stories that Luke recorded, but it was oral tradition. It was that people told stories, and then stories is a tremendous power. And so tonight and through the year with Lifework, I mean, I saw a couple of the speakers that we've used in the last couple of years is attending here also tonight. Had phenomenal stories. And those stories encourage the audience and encourage and stir faith and stir hope in people's hearts and lives. So, in short, now the only problem is may I just see, who of you haven't attended an opening evening like this? Who of you have never been to one? This is your first one. Okay, fantastic. It's about half at least. I'm just trying to figure out how many has heard Gideon's stories. Okay.
Ruan, doesn't it say if we sponsor it that I have to speak? So, just want to clear that.
So tonight, before I ask Gideon just a couple of questions, those of you who haven't been here, we've in the previous years told the whole King Price story in more detail. You're welcome to visit the Lifework Leadership website and YouTube channel, and you can also go and have a look at those stories and testimonies that we've shared here over the last 3 or 4 years now. Okay. Just in short, maybe, so King Price Insurance started 6.5 years ago, the 1st of June. No, what is your birthday? 2nd of June, Gideon's birthday. He's a clever CEO. He makes sure the company starts on his birthday, so every year we celebrate both with a big party. So the company started with, maybe just in short, I'm going to give you a 2-minute review. I baptized Gideon about 20 years ago at a church camp as a young man, both of us. And during that session, I think I made one of those youth pastory type of statements which says, you know, in this room sits the potential to change the world. And he was the crazy young guy to believe that. And actually, in that moment and being baptized there, he said, you know, the Lord really spoke to him that one day he will start a company that will provide thousands of jobs to people and make a lot of money and give millions away to the kingdom. After years later, doing about 42 pitches to investors, eventually the Mergon Group bought into the King Price dream of Gideon. Like Gideon said, eventually he knew the one thing he could do very well was pitching. Nobody wanted to give him money, but training that much, you know, you become very good with it. Eventually they invested. Those of you who know the Mergon story, I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but basically I think they're currently at about 70% of their profits, actually of their shareholding, is placed within the Mergon Foundation, which goes towards kingdom projects. The budget for this year of money which they will distribute towards kingdom projects is 120 million rand. Last year they gave between 100 and 115 million away. And those are our main shareholders, which helps us in the sense of when people come and work here, we can boldly say, listen, if you help us make 100 rand profit through all the shareholding structures, about 50 rand out of every 100 rand will end up changing the world. So from a statement maybe 20 years ago saying there's potential in this room to change the world, we believe that today we're at that place where we can change the world. And that everything we do and every action we do and every person that works here contributes to changing the world. So this is, I believe, a living testimony of what God can do. Great. So that's the nutshell, condensed version of our story. Gideon.
Thanks.
Anything you want to add? No. So tell us maybe just in the last year, what has changed? Is there something new? Anything new that we need to know of since you spoke last year and have been speaking every single year? Yeah. So what can you share with us?
Okay. Well, it was definitely a hard year. Rowan, all the case that you threw off, I gained and lost my hair. It was a very stressful year. But no, we had as a King Prize, had a blessed year. Really phenomenal year in growth and all of that. Family, wife is happy, kids are happy. Struggling with the growth aspect. There is really a difference if you become 800 staff versus 50 when you started. So you can't go in gym in the mornings. It's now dropping kids, balancing all of those kind of things. Everybody's got their own idea of how to run this company and all of that. And but through that all, I think there's one theme that came up. And then what I also said to Marno is I really don't want to tell the same old story again. I mean, I was 23 back then, and eventually it happened when I was 35. We launched, and but nothing has changed. So, and that's a theme that kept coming up over the last 6 months. Is the one guy from Australia actually sat at lunch. He told a totally different story, but he mentioned that his captain in the army always told him, "You have to keep moving. If you don't move, you get shot. That's the rule." And a lot of times in the boardrooms, and we have got a lot of opportunities. We're looking at Europe and so on. What I keep on enforcing is we need to keep moving. And the theme of undisciplined growth also comes to mind. So do it well, but you need to keep moving and make a call, even if it's not the perfect one right now. I mean, that part of our story is the Lego theme. It doesn't have to be perfect to be great. So we do a lot of things to just get traction. Currently that's the theme. There's lots of new horizons. I think as team, and I'm certainly as passionate as ever. Had a long holiday, so I'm recharged. So yeah, that's what's going on here.
Gideon, tell me, and like you said, when you start off and it's 50 people, it's almost easy to keep touch with every single person, and you can communicate to all of them. You almost know everybody's name, but all of a sudden it's 800 people. Is it still easy to have that influence on 800 people? Is it still easy to influence the staff? How do you, maybe just from an influential point of view, how do you see living your calling? Do you think you can mix church and work here, influencing people?
I'll tell. Okay, the Chinese recently visited us, which was phenomenal through the Mogon group. They actually, the question is, can you mix church and work? I used to say no. That's why we don't play gospel music in the hallways here and all of that. We're an insurance company. We have got a business to run and all of that. That's number one. I mean, but they really surprised me. So what they did was they just came on top here and started singing songs and dancing here in the foyer, and some of the staff joined, and they told us.
Let me just say, it's not very often that you find Gideon being uncomfortable. He's the one making everybody uncomfortable. But when the Chinese grabbed him by the arm and said, "Now you're dancing on gospel songs in the foyer here on the top for everybody," the whole floor came out watching how Gideon is being led into a sort of a churchy dance there. I just immediately took the camera and made sure I'm a cameraman, because I knew I was going to be pulled in next. But it was fantastic. We must actually release that video for you. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's on YouTube. It's quite fun. It's really scary. But I think, and that's perspective. When they spoke to us, I think they mentioned over 100 million Christians in China. When they do church, is in their workplace, it's in the factories and all of that. And that gave me a new thinking behind it. So yes, you can definitely. I think South Africans are very. Now we have our church outfit on. Now it's social, and now it's work, kind of thing. And I think first of all, people can smell fakeness a mile away. So I think if you truly care for your staff, trust is the biggest thing probably, and then you put things in place. So yes, you definitely have to care first. And we are business. We like Peter always say from Ergon, no profit. No margin, no mission. So we have to do that right first. And then look after your staff. So Marno is in charge, for example, of leadership and all these kind of things in the organization. Lesser to extent is you also pick up the broken pieces. I mean, there's a lot, life is tough. You need whole human beings that's productive to really make a difference. And you can maybe later share some of those stories and some of the programs that you're working with. Currently, we have an insider program that's super exciting. I think, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that. But I think the point is you can definitely mix the two. And in that, I think previously I would have said, no, it's just work and profits goes to winning souls for the kingdom of heaven. But I really do think you can day by day win kingdom souls here and look after your people. It's not just Christians working here; it's all religions and all of that. So don't say enforce it. And we're not a church, as mentioned, but I do think you can get that right. And I'm not saying we do. I just say, but don't just keep trying. At least.
Be yourself. I think something the Chinese, when they were here, also challenged us upon was the fact of they shared how many CEOs in China sees their businesses almost as also they literally start the morning sort of as a church. They have a church service, worship service, then switch over like that. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let's start working, and because it says there's no places for other places for churches to meet really. So it's they've just so integrated it. And I think the one thing I've learned from Gideon is also just that integration, being real, being authentic, being yourself. Like you said, people smell fakeness a mile away. And that's the one thing I've appreciated about Gideon, is just being authentic. He will just say it the way he believes it. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, it's just who he is. Mostly right, hopefully. So, Gideon, maybe another question. Why do you think people should attend something like Lifework Leadership? What do you think is the benefit of Lifework Leadership and helping people to do a program like that?
Well, we definitely proudly sponsored every year, and we had a couple of people go through this. Wynand probably put it the best for me one day. So it's because I share the same view of things. So you always got church on this side and business on this side. And in my calling in life, it was clear it was business. And I think more and more, certainly that in my experience, is church and business gets closer and closer as time goes by. And I can't give you a global view, but certainly here where we locally move, I find that. I mean, we have church services in our foyer on Sundays, and if you listen to these Chinese guys, that certainly makes sense. So I think for any individual that want to get ideas or get that leadership exposure in terms of from a business world, how to do that, I think that is great. And I don't know of any other program that you can find such practical teachings, learnings. And I mean, I certainly learn a lot from a lot of those courses and videos that I watch that they send on to me and so on. So, and that's, I think, what makes it, certainly in my eyes, very, very special. Especially, and not any age, I mean, you can learn, but I mean, definitely, it would have meant a lot in my life if I could have started on a program like that sooner. So.
Fantastic. I agree with that. I think we've seen people making really important decisions in their businesses as they've attended Lifework Leadership. And I think it's part of the testimonial side of Lifework and just the stories and just the practical guides that we've heard from so many of the speakers, etc. So it can help so many of the business people make godly kingdom decisions in their own businesses and directional. Gideon, it's an election year. What is your perspective on South Africa, and how do you see South Africa at the moment and leading a business of this size in South Africa in the current economic state, political situation, everything? What's happening in your mind, in your heart? How do you see it? How are you going to approach this?
Okay, well, I don't want to say anything political, I guess I think a year ago I was very worried, really, really worried, I always look at it as what God tells me on the Holy Spirit in my heart is I don't feel like we have to flee. So that was first of all the churches and sermons that I attend. There's still a great plan of South Africa and globally. So then you look at the economy and all the business opportunities and all of it. So us as a group, we're not looking for expansion because of South Africa. I mean, that was part of the vision long ago. So we're going full steam in South Africa. And I think there's lots of opportunities. So yes, there's lots of the corruption things coming out this morning. I got so angry listening to the radio. But I mean, it's great that these things come out. And we just now, what I was thinking is, why is nobody in jail and all those kind of things? But I think we're impatient. And I think South Africa will have better years. I don't think it's going to be sunshine and roses and all of those kind of things. But in chaos and all of these things is opportunity. And there's a great book of John Carnegie that how to stop worrying and start living. So one of the things about stress, he says, if you can't do anything about it, then just park it. So my view is, I mean, most of us in any case don't have millions stacked away overseas. Our families are here, so we're here to stay. Then might as well make the best of it. Don't be doubtful, if I can say it like that, and then go full steam and have a positive view. I think that's the best outlook to have, and then you would be amazed how much opportunities there are in where there's risk, because all the other guys go the other way. That's just my personal view.
Somebody once said about crisis, they said the church was born in crisis. The church found its right or its birth in a crisis when Jesus was crucified. That was a massive crisis for the early church, but persecution broke out, massive crisis. But in crisis, the church grew, and you and I had a meeting in the week, and we spoke about, because we've had our fair share of challenges when you have a startup of this magnitude within a market, and the competition is tense. So we've dealt with a bunch of crises the last 6 years, and in the week, Gideon made a statement. He said, some of the people is complaining it's getting a little bit boring because they don't know what's the next crisis. We're making profit now, and we've had such exciting crises the last couple of years. Always this big stuff we had to figure out. And I've known you as a person that actually likes crises. What would you just reply on how to handle crisis?
Don't know the right answer there is, I really get energized for the next thing. It's just how I'm built, and it was surprising that my team would say that, and a lot of people came to me and said they were bored, and I really felt like, isn't there enough on the list to do and all of those kind of things? But I think the next challenge must be there. I think if you get comfy, I get uncomfortable if I'm in a comfort zone, and I always think then you can stretch yourself or wait for a crisis to stretch you, but you're going to get stretched. And I just like to do it myself first, probably. So I think it's a bit of my personality. And I think God blessed me in my life and my journey, that part of my story is I didn't get my degree, my girlfriend left me, and I was a waiter, and I lost that job as well. And so when you're at the bottom, God picked me up, and one day when Marno baptized me, that vision changed instantly. So in this bill, things can change. That's definite if you just look through God's eyes. And I think part of this journey was to have to go through all these crises, and I think every new hurdle is growing. So my view.
Great. Here we've got one of our directors here is a guy by the name of Eugene de Melon. He sort of skews the average age in our company. He's the oldest guy here. Also, I think he's got possibly the most tattoos, I think, on him. But he's also a leader of a Christian biking organization. and preached us over the weekends. And Eugene, having walked a very long road and maybe one of the most experienced insurance people in South Africa, possibly, he continuously reminds us, and I know I've heard him say it to you and to us and to everybody, he says, just remember, it's all about the people. He always looks at the business, and he's seen starting days with Dow Steyn and Talisure and everything, and he would just always stop us and says, just remember, all of this is all about the people. It's all about the people. What's your view just also on the importance of the people in your organization, in the company?
Well, I want to reiterate that it's definitely all about the people. So, I mean, everything we do, all these toys, and I mean, there's no window dressing, but I mean, I would not like to work here the day that I stop here and it's not enjoyable anymore. At least, and it's, like I said, it's not about the toys. I think it's if there's a purpose and everybody's happy, and there's a culture of you know, you can have fun. I mean, most of your time, I think you spend more time at work than home. Then at least make it count and make it enjoyable as best possible. I mean, it can't be fun all the time. If you can get that right in a company, and then again, I don't say we get it. We're not the best at it, but we're definitely not the worst either. I think we're above average, and if we can get better, that's great. But it's definitely about the people, and people that's happy. A customer can also hear that over the phone. I mean, you'll service clients better. It's far more productive, so I just want to reiterate that it's absolutely all about the people.
Yeah, I think that's something which is also quite a focus of Lifework, is to actually just once again highlight that calling aspect, the purpose aspect, the plan of God on every single individual's life. And I have the privilege at King Price to every month, the Induction Pro, all our new people that vary between 10 or 40 people a month usually that starts here, and to spend the first 2 days with them, or a couple of hours. And one of the exercises we very often do is we tell them our purpose, we tell them our story in detail, and they know which type of a company they come in for. And it is so amazing. Then we take them through an exercise actually where we ask them to write their life purpose after we've shared our purpose with them. And we challenge them to sort of align their life purpose towards the company purpose, giving 50% away almost of our profits to kingdom projects. And fully aware that many of those people sitting in front of me are not Christians, might be different religions. And how do you just not preach to them, down to them, but just excite them about the gospel, just excite the life of Christ. And it's so amazing always when we give people, we take them through exercise like that, writing their purpose and aligning it to sort of a godly purpose. It's so often when I always ask people, how many of you, was this the first time you've written a life goal or a life purpose? And usually about 80% of the people would say, it's the first time I wrote something like that. And they would challenge them to listen, but revisit it, just keep going, sort of get into that journey of just asking, what's your purpose here on earth? And I think that's something that we've picked up, and if I can maybe, I don't know how much time we have left to run. 5 minutes. So, 1 minute. I think that's something that is in so many people's hearts. Also, we pick it up as a very big theme in millennials these days, is this thing about purpose and calling. And so many business people, I think we pick up through Lifework, is saying, but what does God want to do with my life? What is God's purpose with my life? And I think that is one of the big questions. We want people to challenge people to come and sort of be quiet and share with other Christians in Lifework and say, listen, I just want to become more and more aware of what God is calling me to do. And I think we often hear that preached through so many churches. So this Sunday, I think I heard it in church. I have to confess my sin a little bit. For the pastors, don't listen too carefully now. So on my way from this one church, racing to another church to go and fetch my child there, I catch the sermon on impact. Louis, so you were preaching, and I heard, ask God what's His plan is for you, don't think out your own plan. So you said, And I think most pastors very often touch on this thing. What is God's plan for you? But the thing is, we never go and sit and become quiet and ask God for that. And I think that is bringing that back to the workplace, is trying to make that practical. How can I do it every single day? How can I do that through my work? And can I believe that God has actually called me to lead a company? God has called me to influence people in the workplace and the marketplace. And I think that's maybe just conclude also with part of my testimony is I always share that when I resigned from the church a couple of years ago, feeling a very strong calling, my wife and myself, that God said, it's time for you to enter into the marketplace because that's where I want you for now. Everybody said it was crazy, except Gideon. So I think that's why I'm working here, because he was the only guy that was excited about me. He said, yeah, please come and help, and let's see what God can do. And I think we've just seen such great signs of God's kingdom just breaking through in people's lives. People that never attended church, and now they do attend church, and now they go to local churches. And many people that's never, we've had a couple of people here that's just never been to a church, people that's not even interested. And as they get to know God, we send them to local churches. So go and become involved somewhere. Go and attend a church. Put yourself there in relationship, in community. And so it's exciting to see change in people's lives in that aspect. And maybe just if you're in the marketplace and you're leading people, I remember as I made that decision, there was a guy that challenged me one day. He said to me, you know, Marno, he says, take it from me and take it. He's a good friend, so he could be honest with me. He said, you know, you're a good preacher. I said, thank you. He said, but people can't even remember 3 weeks later who preached. Never mind what you said. They can't even remember that you preached. Never mind what you were preaching about. Now, I was not as good as Mark Hodges sitting here. I mean, I can still remember his sermons of 20 years ago. But still, he said to me, you know what? In the marketplace, you've got people for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And the influence you can have on people's lives. And I want to really encourage every one of you, even if you don't attend Lifework this year, be aware of God's calling on your life. Be aware that God wants to use you and the influence you can have. I can testify, I think the influence Gideon has had on people's life as a CEO of this company. I've seen him showing grace to people, tremendous. I've seen him helping people. I've seen him giving people jobs. And people would say, why did that guy come and work here? What, does he have a qualification? No, that's the right thing for us to do for now. And I've seen Gideon through that change so many people's lives. And I think if you can become aware of that, our God wants to use you wherever you are in changing and touching people's life. It's all about people. That's the heart of God, and that is absolutely the pinnacle and the focus of God. Gideon, any last words from you?
No, that's it. But I just got reminded, I bought Marno a bus now. King Price bought him a bus. He came on and said, we need to start these office tours now. So I never want to punt insurance, but I can punt office tours. So we'll go and pick you up wherever you are and drive you with a bus here. But just about people, I really see in a year or during this year that every hour there's tours coming through the office and varsity schools and all of that, and having fun, all of that. But I think there's a seed that keeps behind, and that's a deeper calling. And so look forward to that, and you're welcome to talk to him about it. There's lots of other crazy things that we also are doing here. But just thanks again for the opportunity and being here. And thank you.